Hi all, welcome to educators.com. I'm Hari's software engineer. In this session, we will learn about different types of errors and how to use the try, catch and finally blocks. Here we have different types of errors like syntax errors, runtime errors and logical errors. Coming to syntax errors. These errors occur at the compile time, which is during interpret time in JavaScript. Like in this example, you can check I declared a console log statement with message as hello world, but here I gave the starting parenthesis, but I didn't give the ending parenthesis. So here it will return an syntax error before the JavaScript is interpreted. So here the syntax errors will affect only the code contained within the same thread. So the code which is related to other threads will continue execution. So coming to runtime errors. These errors occur only at the runtime. This means it will not occur at the interpretation time. So here in this example you can check I'm trying to call the getValue method using for the window object, but the window object doesn't have this method. So here as per the syntax it is correct, but whereas since the method doesn't exist, it will throw an error at runtime. So similar to syntax errors, it will affect the code within the same thread, whereas the code belonging to the other threads will continue execution. So coming to logical errors. Here these errors are not based on the syntax or runtime errors. These errors are based on the logic written by the user. If the user makes a mistake in the logic, and the result will not be as expected. So this is like if you make a mistake in the business logic, so you'll not be able to get the expected result. So this is not something like an exception. So this is like something which you need to handle within the code logic. These are very difficult to catch. So you need to be able to catch these errors only by testing. So coming to try catch blocks. The try and catch blocks are used to check the exception within a block of code and handle the exception based on the type. So here in this example you can check the syntax of declaring the try and catch along with finally. We'll be discussing about the finally in coming slides. So here the try block contains a complete code and the catch block contains a code which will be executed when the exception is being caught. Okay, so now let's start with try. The try statement consists of a block of code that has been tracked for exceptions and at least one catch or final clause. We can have nested try blocks. If the nested try block doesn't have a catch block, the exception will be handled by its parent catch block. So the try statement contains a block of code that is being tracked for exceptions. This means it contains a block of code where you want to check or monitor for exceptions. So whatever be the exception thrown by try will be caught by catch block. So here we can also have nested try blocks, but the try block should be containing at least one catch or finally block. So if the nested try block doesn't have a catch block, it will be caught at the parent level. So here in this example you can check that I declared a try with console value and then a nested try with the full name calculation based on the first name and last name variables, and then I'm throwing an exception. So coming to catch. A catch clause contains statements that specifies what to do if an exception is thrown in the try block. So if any statement within the try block throws an exception, control immediately shifts to the catch block. So let's say for example within the try block we have 10 lines of code. So if the exception is thrown at the fifth line, it will stop executing the remaining lines and then the control shifts to the catch block. So here in the catch block we specify an identifier that holds a value specified by the throw statement. Like in whatever is being thrown by the throw statement within the try block will be written as an parameter to the catch block. So this identifier is local to the catch clause. This means that it is created when the catch clause is entered, and after the catch clause finishes executing, the identifier is no longer available. Here we can have multiple catch clauses. It is been divided into two types. One is conditional and the second is unconditional. So coming to conditional. Conditional in the sense here if the throws an exception of some X type, we'll be checking the type whether that thrown object is instance of a particular type or not. So if the given object is an instance of particular type, then we'll be executing that catch block code. So this is how we'll be writing the conditional catch blocks. Whereas in unconditional catch clause, we'll be having only one catch block, where whatever be the exception thrown by the try block will be handled in that block itself. So coming to the finally clause, it contains a list of statements that will be executed after the try and catch block. Regardless of the exception handled by the catch block, the finally block will always execute. This means whether the exception has been thrown or whether the exception is not thrown and whether the catch block has been executed or not, in any of the cases the final block will run. So mostly the final block is been used to release the resources if an exception has been thrown or whether after the execution of the statements. Like in this example you can check I am trying to open a file and after the file has been opened I am trying to write to the file and then in the finally I am closing the file. So this is how the final block has been declared. Brackets above. Here let's declare a try block. Here we are trying to call the method of window object saying hello world which doesn't exist, and let's try to catch the exception using the catch clause. Write error dot message. So let's check the output. So here it says window dot get value is not a function. So since the get value method is not a property of window object, it throws an exception saying it is not a function. Let's check with the nested try blocks. Let's declare try with the console log saying in parent try block and then a nested try block. Let's declare finally. So let's make it document right. Right. Looks like some We missed something. Here we declared a try block, and then within try block, and then finally, oh, here we declared two. Wrong. Let's check it out. So here first it prints in parent try block, then in nested finally, and then the catch block of the parent saying we do not get value is not a function. So this is how we need to declare the try block and nested try blocks. So now let's check with catch block. Let's use the same try block. So here this is a unconditional declaration of catch clause. So whatever be the exception thrown by the try block, it will be handled by the single catch clause. So let's now try with the conditional catch clause. So let's declare an if condition saying instance of so here within the catch block I declared an if and else condition saying like if in the if condition I declared as if the error is instance of type error, then it will be handled, or else the else logic will be handled. So let's check it out. Here it says from type error. That means the error thrown by the try block is of type error. So now let's check with the finally. Let's declare a try block saying document dot write without exception, and then a catch block, and then a finally. Here we are checking that whether the final block has been executed without the exception. So here, as the exception is not been thrown from try block, the finally is clause is been executed. So now let's check with the exception. Get value. Here it will throw an exception as we are calling the get value method of an object which doesn't exist. So now let's check it out. Here it says with exception, and then window got catch clause has been executed, and then finally clause has been executed. So here the finally clause will be executed whenever there is an exception or not an exception. So irrespective of this try block, and the catch block, it will execute. The final clause will execute at every time. So that's all from this session. Thank you.